Welcome to Dryair's instructional videos. My name is Terry and I am going to be your instructor for this course. Welcome to Part 3 of Flow Reverser Maintenance and Repair. To aid in tracing down a possible electrical problem, Dryair has provided an electrical schematic inside the operator's door of all of their equipment. Here we are back at the Flex 900. This is a good time to point out some differences between the Flex 900, the GTS 600, GTS 900, and GTS 300. Both of the 900s and the 600 have this style of control panel. They might be oriented slightly different than this, but it'll be with this power station off to the side. It will also see up here 220 volts coming into it, and because of those, in this case we need to have the breaker for the burner turned on, the switch for the burner turned on, and the flow reverser switch can be on or off. For testing the flow reverser switch, that's your minimum requirements for the 600 and both of the 900s. The GTS 300 doesn't require this power station, and in the voltmeter you'll see only 110 volts coming into it. So with that being said, we need to start taking a look at what we do in order to diagnose the flow reverser. Well, the first thing we'll do is we'll take a look at this transformer. Now the transformer coming into it is around 110 volts AC. So we'll trace these wires. We'll see that it comes down to this power bar, and it'll be near the top of the power bar. We trace it and we see 120 volts. Knowing that we're getting 120 volts coming into it, we can surmise that it should be somewhere around 24 volts AC coming out of it, and we do. From here, in all cases, the leads go to this short power strip up on the other side, and if we test across, we'll see that we still have our 27 volts. From the power strip, it comes down to the bottom of the timer, and then now we can start talking about the timer a little bit. This timer is set up so that it will put 24 volts AC through and can do switching in between. It requires 110 volts to work, but it is switching 24 volts. So when we're testing this, we've already determined that I should be seeing about 24 volts coming to the bottom of it, which I do. And with that being said, on the top of it is everything on output side. So on one of the legs on the output, in this case the far outside, I have 24 volts going out. On the other leg I do not. That being said, if I was to turn the flow reverser on and test it again, it has switched. Now, what we also need, as I mentioned before, it requires 110 volts to work. So that means that there's going to be 110 volts going to the switch, which I didn't pull that panel apart, but I can check that switch here on the two outside legs, and that should be 110 volts coming out. And there we go. If I turn that flow switch off, then I should have nothing or near nothing coming into those two legs. So a little more on this timer here before we finish up. Some key features are power indicators, a dial that we can adjust the amount of time that we want before switching, and we have some settings along the bottom. Now I'm going to start over in the range, and if we adjust it, we'll see an S, We can go over to minutes. We can go over to hours. So there's quite a bit of flexibility that way. The scale adjusts all of these numbers in here. And by adjusting it, one thing that we want to make sure is that the numbers are in here, they're sitting in the vertical position. From the factory, you'll see it's at 10, 15, 20, 25, and the range is going to be on minutes. Again, from factory, the mode is going to be set to D. C or D will work. D is preferable, and I'll go into a little bit as to why. So in your owner's manual, particularly the subject on the RTE timers, you'll find this page. And if we look at mode A in the top left corner, it'll show that it starts with the power off, and then it goes through one cycle T with the power on, one cycle with it off, and then you have to restart it. In mode B, it does the exact opposite. It starts powered on and then cycles and shuts off, which means that it has to be restarted in order for it to work again. So A and B obviously will not work for this scenario. If we go to mode C, when it starts with the power off to the actuators. So that means that whatever the time interval you have set up, you would have to wait for that time interval before you could go back and check to see if the flow reverser actuator was turning or not. In mode D, does the same thing, but it actually starts with the power on. And in both mode C and D, it has an automatic reset. So it'll do its time, switch over to the other leg, do that time, and then switch back and forth. So it's automatically switching. Modes A and B are manually resetting. And that is it for the flow reverser parts 1, 2, and 3, repair and maintenance. Have a good day.